Welcome into the fourth episode of the fourth season of Over the Middle, the best recruiting podcast around. I'm your host, Jeremy Crabtree, and I'm the senior recruiting editor for On3. We're brought to you by the amazing folks at YourView, the home for the best live high school football coverage from coast to coast. If it's a top matchup in Oklahoma, YourView has you covered. The same is true in Arizona, Louisiana, Nebraska, and other corners of the country. Be sure to log on to watch.yourview.com. And once there, you can subscribe to access for all the games across the country. Or you can pick up a single game matchup that jumps out to you for just $7.99. It's another tremendous schedule this week, and it all starts on Thursday night with a great matchup between Broken Arrow and Westmore. Broken Arrow is loaded. They got tons of top talent, one of the top high school football teams in the country. They're also home to OU safety commitment Robert Spears Jennings. And again, they are absolutely loaded. They're on Friday night. YourView is out in Arizona with an epic matchup between Notre Dame against Brophy Prep. And Brophy is home to top 300 recruit and Notre Dame cornerback commitment Benjamin Morris. That game and plenty of more can only be seen on YourView. All right. Well, let's dive into this week's topic. And for those of you guys that have been with us since the beginning, you know that we like to cover the bigger picture, the bigger topics of recruiting, things that transform the recruiting trail. We really don't always get into he's going to this school or that school's got 25 five-stars committed. We like to talk to the heavy hitters that impact the recruiting trail. And I'll be honest, nobody has disrupted the basketball recruiting world more than our guest today. I'm pleased to be joined by On3 national basketball analyst Joe Tipton. Joe, welcome in here to Over the Middle.
Thank you, Jeremy. Happy to be here.
All right, Joe, your story, it's one of the most remarkable ones I've seen and I'm going to date myself here when I had more hair. I've been covering recruiting for now 30 years. But your story is one of the most remarkable. You've not only carved out a niche, so to speak, you've created it. So let's kind of set the stage for what you do and how you got to this point. You are the go-to person for social media recruiting graphics for all the top high school basketball talent in the country. Your Instagram page has 200,000 followers. That's not 200 followers. That's 200,000 followers. And Joe, you've turned this niche into a full-time career here at On3, where you now keep tabs on all the recruiting basketball happening. So does this all kind of feel like a dream? I mean, how quickly does this happen? It's got to be just wild for you.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I never really expected anything like this to happen, to be honest. It all kind of started with just a interest in graphic design, me just editing pictures on my phone. And, I would just reach out to, NBA players and college players, and I wanted to get a response back. I made an edit for them. I wanted them to see my work, recognize it somehow, maybe post it on their Instagram, something of that nature. Well, I never got a response. This is before the Tipton Edits Instagram existed, by the way. But so I decided to reach out to some of the top ranked high school players. And at first, it was interesting because the edits I was making them wasn't recruitment related. It was just them with a cool filter, a cool effect, just whatever. It wasn't even their top 5 a commitment. But eventually, it got to that point where they realized, oh well, maybe Joe could make me something, and put the 5 logos around me, and I can say these are my top 5 schools on social media. And a story that I like to tell is I remember Donovan Mitchell, plays for the Utah Jazz, when he was planning on announcing his top 5 schools. He just typed it in the notes of his phone, screenshotted it, and posted to Instagram. And obviously that is no more. That does not happen. So yeah, just an interesting graphic design and consistency as well. Kind of led me to where I'm at now.
So do you have any formal design training, or was this something that you kind of just picked up on your own and created a niche that way?
Yeah, so I had no formal design training, just kind of self-taught, with the help of YouTube, things of that nature, but nothing actual professional training or anything.
That's also mind-blowing. And for folks that haven't seen, we'll promote the social handles here and as we go on there. But for those that haven't seen Joe's work, it is next level stuff. So who was your first big name guy that kind of said, okay, Joe, let's do this, and what do you remember about that?
The first big one that I remember, I started in the class of 2015. Ben Simmons, he was committed to LSU at the time. He posted a graphic that I made him. He was already committed to LSU. It wasn't an announcement to LSU, but he still posted the edit. I remember that one was cool. Michael Porter Jr., he was the #1 player in the class of 2017. His commitment to Washington at first, and then Missouri.
Yeah.
And then probably the biggest one in terms of following on social media was Sharif O'Neal when he committed to Arizona originally. Shaq posted it on his Instagram. So that was incredible as well. I've always watched Shaq highlights growing up, so that was cool to see also.
Yeah, Shaq's a man that loves the promotion. So anytime you can get involved with that's a good deal. So set me down here and tell our listeners, how do you come up with all these ideas for this designs? I mean, these are just next level with the intricacy, the little details. There's shoes, there's just I can't even describe it. I mean, there's just so many small little details that you bring to the table. So where do you come up with ideas for all these designs?
So a lot of it's inspiration from others, just seeing, scrolling through Instagram, just online, things of that nature. A lot of it is one of the first questions that I ask the athlete when we get started with the editing process. Is there anything specific that you wanted incorporated, in the edit? And a lot of the time it's, creativity on the athletic side, on the athlete side as well. And I try to incorporate that. And then, of course, a lot of the time, players, when they're preparing to make an announcement at top schools or a commitment, they're already kind of looking through my page and they're seeing, oh, I like how he did this here. Can you take this one from this Duke one, but then add that effect that you did on the North Carolina one there, something like that. But yeah.
The one that kind of jumps out to me here, and I know you and I've talked a little bit about this, the Derek Lively one, one of the top recruits in this 2022 class, when he committed to Duke, right? And it's got waves in it and trophies everywhere. That one just kind of floored me with this, how little the details were into that. So is that one of your favorite that you've done for the past few months, or is there another one that you're really, really proud of that blew you away for how it turned out?
Yeah, that's one I really like as well. Blue, for some reason, does very well with the graphics. Something about blue just kind of pops and then looks smooth. But another one that stood out was Jackson Kohler. He just committed just a few days ago to Michigan State. He's a 4-star big man. And I just realized earlier today that LeBron James had reshared the edit to his Instagram story. Wow. And LeBron's my favorite player. So that always stands out just because it's LeBron.
Yeah. Well, you're rubbing elbows with LeBron and Shaq here. I mean, that's some name dropping right there, Joe. You probably never anticipated this happening, right? I mean, this just had to be kind of just mind blowing how quickly this escalated to the point where you're at now, but then just also how the players have gravitated to you, but then also gravitated just to the interest in the design aspect of the whole thing.
Yeah, most definitely. I didn't expect it at all, honestly. It's been all kind of, I look back and think, is this real? Sometimes like, wow, here I am sitting here, and it's kind of overwhelming, if you sit down and think about it too deeply. But I think a lot of it has to do with consistency and credibility as well. I started doing this in late 2015, the kids committing now in the class of 2022, they've seen me do this for multiple years, since they were in, 7th, 8th grade, and they saw their, Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, guys like that. They saw the guys that they looked up to when they were in middle school, and, oh, they got a Tipton edit. So, when I get older, I've had, kids message me, when I'm a senior in high school, I'm going to have a Tipton edit. And then, they're like 13, So it's cool to see that as well.
Well, just wait till you've done this as long as I have when you're covering kids that are the kids, if that makes sense. So yeah,
Yep.
you're going to run into that here pretty awesome. So you did touch on something I think is very important as part of how and why you've been so successful. You mentioned credibility, but the designs are cool, but that's kind of just one part of the story here. So how did you get recruits to trust you with their decisions? Because we live in a world where communication's often done via cell phone, and a lot of times not face to face, or done via direct message and things like that. So how did you develop a reputation where these top recruits, I mean, we're talking future NBA stars here, guys that are going to be lottery picks and things like that. How did you get them to trust you with their decision?
Well, it wasn't always like this. Now 90 to 95% of the time, the players will just say, I'm going here. But in the past, when I was just a year or two into doing this, it's a huge commitment to tell somebody that you've never met where you're going to college, knowing that it's huge news and that any media reporter could spoil it at any time. So at first it was, can you make me an edit here and here? So then I would never know which school it was actually. I just knew it was between two. But as time went on and the credibility of Tipton edits increased, and players saw year after year that you can trust Joe Tipton or Tipton edits with your commitment, and nothing's spoiled. He doesn't post it and break the news and get the scoop himself. He waits for you to announce. Just after time, they begin to just believe it and see that I'll withhold that information.
Yeah, and that trust is huge, and honestly, just as important, in my opinion, as the cool designs. I mean, getting these 4 and 5 star recruits to trust you with their decisions, and that you're not going to break the news early is something that just doesn't happen. It's something you've had to really work at, right?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. I have this little series I do occasionally on my Instagram story, and the title is Tipton Knows But Never Tells. So, after a player commits, for example, Derek Lively committed to Duke, like you mentioned. He committed on Monday.
Yeah.
He told me last Tuesday, and I just screenshotted our text messages, and I had held that for 6 days when the world is guessing, is it Kentucky, is it Duke? Well, we don't know, but Joe knows. But then that just kind of showcases that, yes, I knew, but I'm not posting all about it. Duke's the favorite. My prediction is Duke, whatever. I'm not giving it away. So then that kind of shows that they can trust me with that as well.
That's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of responsibility to be the man that knows where one of the most impactful players in college basketball, future NBA stars, are going. I mean, do you ever sit back and just go, yeah, this is pretty cool?
Yes, the first time it kind of hit me was, I think it was maybe the 2017 NBA draft. And, obviously the players got to do 1 year of college. So it was the year before, and I was just, watching the draft and seeing the players get selected. And I think I might have worked with 20 to 25 of the guys selected within the 60. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And then, it's been about the same number, since each draft, seeing the players' names gets called. And, when you have 8 of the top 10 picks, that you worked with, it doesn't, it's hard to believe, but it's an incredible opportunity as well.
And it sounds like you've worked, not only breaking the scoop, but it sounds like you've learned to build good relationships with some of these kids. And you kind of, I learned this when I covered football recruiting for as long as I have. Certain kids have that special factor, that it factor, on and off the court and on and off the field. Almost you probably had to feel like a proud papa when you saw all those guys' names drafted. I know I certainly do when I go back and search and think, oh gosh, this guy's called on NFL draft night. That I talked to that guy, and he was you could tell he had that it factor. You probably had that same type of feeling, I assume.
Yes, yeah, 100%, 100%. It's draft night's almost like Christmas morning. just because, a lot of the time there are kids that you've built a special relationship with, some others not, but it's always still cool to see their dreams come true, and then hear their name called on draft night. And it's always, it's the best time of the year.
So have you got you kind of touched on a little bit, but I want to take a little step further. Has your body of work gotten to the point where recruits just now reach out to you and say, "Hey, I need a tip and edit," or do you still have to work hard at building relationships with some of these kids?
It really just varies from player to player, really. Some kids, will just reach out to me, and I've never even talked to them before, and they say, I want to announce my commitment next week. Can you make me something? But then others, what I generally try to do is, when those players start getting ranked, when their sophomore year, their junior year, I start, following those guys on social media, reaching out to them, introducing myself, giving them my phone number, offering my services to them, letting them know that they can reach out to me, staying in contact with them, congratulating them when they get new scholarship offers, things of that nature. But like I said, just case by case. Yeah.
Oh, well, and you mentioned LeBron James being your favorite player. There is a certain player coming up in the 23 class, Bronny James. You working on that one already?
No, I haven't worked on anything for Bronny yet, but hopefully that time will come relatively soon.
Yeah. So obviously we talk about the player side of things. What's been your relationships with college coaches? Now, let's put things set straight. We know technically college recruiters aren't allowed to talk publicly about recruiting, and they're not technically legally, if NCAA rule-ish, able to talk to you about hey, this kid's getting ready to commit here or there. But and I don't want you to name names or schools or anything like that, but do you get feedback from coaches? Do they kind of help connect you at all with a prospect when they're ready to announce their commitment to their school? Because let's be honest, it's a big deal when a 5-star commits to Duke or a 5-star commits to KU, or I saw you did something on George Mason earlier this week. So, I mean, that it was a high caliber kid. So I wonder, have you gotten feedback from college coaches, and what's that relationship like?
Yeah, so a lot of college coaches that I've noticed more recently do follow me on social media. They'll message me and, congratulate me on my success, which is always nice to hear. Always, good to connect with college coaches. From time to time, they'll send me a message on Twitter or, get my phone number and say, hey, between me and you, we have a top 100 kid committing to us on Friday. Is there any way you can help us create something for the recruit? Like, sure. Get in contact with the kid, go from there. There has been cases of that as well. And then even more so, more often, college coaches, will say, things like, what do you know about this kid? Have you seen him play? Do you think his recruitment is winding down? Is it too late for us to hop in and offer him? We don't want to waste our time if he's planning on deciding in the next 2 weeks. Just kind of figuring out where a kid's head at when it comes to their recruitment process. Because a lot of the time, these kids don't want to tell college coaches, out of shyness or respect, like, sorry, but not sorry, I'm not interested. They just can't say that a lot of the time. Got to keep in mind they're 16, 17, maybe 18 years old. It's hard for them to say, frankly, thank you. So then sometimes, I talk to the kid. I have a relationship. If I already know the kid tells me he's into these 2 schools and he's not interested in pursuing any other colleges and not interested in taking any other visits, then I'll tell the new school that's inquired about him, like, it's a little bit too late to the party.
Yeah, it's a give and take relationship. It goes kind of reminds me of going back and covering the old City Hall beat days back. I'm an old newspaper guy, Joe, so I like translating things to newspaper days. So I like, you cover a beat, There is some give and take, and certainly I'm excited to see that that give and take is translated to what you're doing, and certainly has helped you along your career trajectory. Okay, so you've built this trust. You're doing all these cool designs. You've generated a monster following, again, 200,000 plus on Instagram, on social media. And then you hear from On3. And now you're here with them. Talk about how that all went down in your decision to go from social media star to basketball recruiting analyst.
Well, really, it was kind of happenstance. I knew I wanted to have a job in sports for quite some time. I didn't know how I was going to achieve that, honestly. I had already graduated college or was about to graduate and still didn't really have a plan as to what I would do, to make a living. Yeah. And I was just going through my Twitter followers one day and noticed that our boss, Shannon Terry, was following me. It's like, oh, wow, I wasn't even following him back. I didn't know he followed me. So I follow him back and just sent him a message saying, just noticed you were following me, would love to connect. We end up getting on a Zoom call, chatting back and forth. He offers me a job and, I accept it basically on the spot. I couldn't turn it down. The man who's done it successfully each and every time, more successful, one company after the next. It's just a dream job to be able to incorporate Tipton edits into my work life. So it isn't like me working two separate jobs, which is similar to what I had to do while being a full-time student in college and then Tipton edits on the side. But now there's just all one beast, so to speak. I love it. It's a dream job. I don't even like to call it a job because it doesn't feel like work. I could do it 16 hours a day and it wouldn't bother me one bit.
Well, you and I have worked hand in hand quite a bit here for the last couple of months here. And what I love is that you've embraced this additional role. You're not just a one-trick pony. You're not just a guy that can do cool edits and designs. You are also a talented writer, and you've kind of incorporated your interviews, your designs into kind of this whole package that is just unlike anything that we've seen covering the basketball recruiting world. Did you always have a passion for writing and telling stories?
Well, thanks for saying that. I haven't actually. I didn't really enjoy writing ever until now. But the only writing experience I had prior to this was in school, in college, writing research papers on a topic that I cared nothing about. So, therefore it wasn't enjoyable because I didn't like the topic, the subject. So now it's something that I'm passionate about. So it's motivation to, enjoy it and to do well at it. But yeah, it is kind of a newfound love or hobby. But I've enjoyed it because it's all kind of new to me.
No. And well, you're doing it quite well. And I think that's what's kind of cool about, your coverage of the basketball recruiting world, because you're not a one-trick pony. You can do a little bit of everything, and that uniqueness that combines the ability to break news, like Woj on ESPN with the NBA, along with the ability to tell the stories, along with owning the social media. I think that's just such a cool combination. And I mentioned revolutionary, groundbreaking. I think that's so true about what you do. And your career is going to continue to take off as we move forward. So, all right, we got to talk a little bit of basketball recruiting before we go. Okay, we can talk all day about the cool edits and things like that. But I wanted to get your feedback on a few names from this 2021 class that'll be on the court this fall that will jump out. Who do you think makes the biggest impact this season as an incoming freshman?
Couple names come to mind. The first is Paulo Banchero, freshman at Duke. Just an absolute beast. I think his official measurements were he was 6'10", 250 pounds. He's extremely versatile as well. Another name that stands out is Caleb Houston. He'll be a freshman at Michigan. Another one, J.D. Davison at Alabama. He'll have huge impact. And then lastly, Kennedy Chandler at Tennessee.
Okay. I like how you threw in some you threw in the one blue blood, then you threw in some other ones, because that's what's kind of cool about basketball recruiting now, is that yes, Duke, Kentucky, KU, they're going to get their guys, but we are seeing more and more guys go to Alabamas, the Tennessees, the Houstons, the other places like that, and it just makes the game so much better.
Oh, I completely agree. It's always interesting to see, for example, if you take the Kennedy Chandler case, he decides to commit to Tennessee over, Penny Hardaway in Memphis, Duke, North Carolina. Sorry, but Kansas as well.
Well, as a K-State grad, I'm okay with that. So,
but he shows all these blue bloods. He chose Tennessee over all these blue bloods just because he believes in what they're doing in Knoxville. So it's always interesting to see when players sort of go against the grain.
Mm-hmm. Well, give us a name or two in this current senior class, a class of 2022 that will be stars of the future. What the biggest name is Shadon Sharp going to Kentucky. I mean, is Derek Lively going to go into Duke? And going to Duke, are those the two names, or is there somebody else that you really like in this class?
Yep, those are the two names that I was already thinking. And then another one, Nick Smith. He decides on the 29th between Arkansas, Auburn, and Alabama. So he's a huge prospect. He had a huge summer as well. So that's another one to keep an eye on. Well,
and I know you will have it all covered here, not only with the cool designs, but then great feedback and analysis on three. So, Joe, thank you for the visit. I'm not saying this just because we're coworkers. I've been covering recruiting for a long time now, and your rise in the industry and the ability to shake things up is transformative for all of college athletics. So, we talked about all your Instagram account. We talked about all these designs. Tell people how they can find your work on social media and also how they can find you on the website.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So Twitter, I'm at Tipton Edits. And then on Instagram, I'm Tipton.edits. And you can find my stories, my articles on on3.com.
Yeah, your Instagram stories are really cool. I like that. I like the Joe knows, but those are my favorite. But just the ability, the creativity, and everything you put together is just outstanding. And I'm happy to call you a coworker, but I'd be doing this interview regardless if you work with us at On3. It's an amazing story, and I can't wait to see what the next step. I'm a cool design guy, as you know. I'd like to see cool things that look awesome, and I can't wait to see what your next iteration is coming here on Instagram.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed chatting with you.
All right. Okay, folks. Well, that's it for this week's edition of Over the Middle. Once again, I'm your host, Jeremy Crabtree with On3. And again, we cannot do this show without the support from the great folks at YourView. YourView is the home for the top high school football matchups from Arizona to Rhode Island and everywhere in between. Head over to watch.yourview.com and check out some of the great matchups slated for this week. And again, don't forget about those monsters matchups Thursday and Friday night in Oklahoma and Arizona. I know I'll be logging in to watch them both, and you should be too. Thanks again for joining us on Over the Middle. God willing, we'll be back again to talk to you next week.